This podcast is brought to you by Infinite Resources, a local staffing agency connecting diverse job candidates in central Iowa companies.
Amplified.
Okay, I want to hear that music. Boom! Say wagwan out there. In the social media world, this is Dr. Negus from Hotep, coming with another episode of Babylon Makes the Rules. Before we get started, we want to first and foremost give a shout out to our sponsors, Infinite Resources, and Amplified DSM, right here in the heart of the belly of the beast, better known as Babylon, Des Moines, Iowa. We have a guest today, a young man that I came to connect with and saw light flashing in my face, so I didn't get blinded, so I had to put my sunshades on. This brother's name is Gerald C. Brown Jr. Why don't you introduce yourself, sir?
Thank you, Dr. Negus. Pleasure to be here.
Closer. Get close to you.
All right, we got to adjust the mic a little bit. But thank you for having me. It's truly a pleasure to be here, to be able to talk with you today. I'm coming just as a man to share my knowledge and to share my insights, and I hope that what I bring to the table is practical and useful. I believe that there's power in the word.
Yes.
There's also power in thinking and reading, power in our stories that we tell. And so it's important what stories we tell and how we tell them.
And that's powerful. I know I met Gerald about 12, 13 weeks ago. We were both matriculating through the Drake University Business Accelerator program, where we did 12 weeks of training dealing with a MBA program that's done at Stanford University. And we got to talk to one another, and I said, well, man, I invite you on the show. Why don't you tell us a little something about what you do, what you like to do?
Thank you. Well, I'm getting boring in my age, but there was, once upon a time I was in the military as an Air Force. I did that for 8 years. Then I did government contracting overseas for another 8 years. I got a chance to travel the world, see different cultures, see different things. I got to learn about myself and learn about life and the realities that some things that were taught to me ended up being different once I saw it from a different perspective. Decided to come back here to Des Moines to raise a family. And I got fortunate to, become a part of the Des Moines Police Department. And if anything, my process today is to give back and to share about my life, culture, and to also to talk about the things that are valuable for our community.
Okay, that's wonderful. I know we talked about our businesses in class, but we're not going to talk about our businesses today. We're going to talk about a topic that is near and dear to me, and probably as the others as well. It's about noticing that a lot of African Americans, Afro-Caribbeans, and Africans of the diaspora in 2019 had a welcome from the president of Ghana for a reclamation of the children of the African diaspora to come back to Ghana. And you told me about the experience of yourself. Would you like to enlighten us about what happened, how you went through what you went through?
Sure. When I was stationed over there in Qatar, I had a chance to connect with people African from all over, from Kenya, from Nigeria, from Ghana. I dated, in fact, a Ghanaian woman, and so I got thrown, head first into the difference of our cultures and having to learn that we were different. When I looked at them, they were Kenyan, and they could tell me what Kenyan meant. They could tell me what, being African meant. I could not tell them what African American meant. I didn't understand what that word was. And so in my experiences, I had to kind of grow up and mature in the realities that it's things that we need to talk about. It's things that we need to discuss in our lives, telling our story of who we are, and seeing, I guess, closing the bridge between us, from Africans to African Americans, closing that bridge through communication.
Yes. I remember I did some of my undergrad at New Mexico State University, at Texas Southern University, and Excelsior College. But when I was at Texas Southern, a historical black college, it was just a treat to go to an institution of higher learning where your professors, the president of the university, the janitors, the whoever, the people that worked in the cafeteria, everybody was of African descent. A lot of people from the West Indies, people from South America, but everybody was black. And it was cool. I was like, man, I remember some of my locals that I knew back in Houston, they would always say, man, why you always hang out around the Africans? Why you don't hang out with the people from the Caribbean? Why? I said, man, I already know y'all from Fifth Ward. I know who you are, you know. But I want to talk to somebody that has a different experience that can enlighten me to how things are and where they come from.
Well, I key off to what you're saying in the sense that I know with my experience, it was not having to be a black person. It was just being a person. I could be around them. I could actually be a person and not have to. It wasn't about being a black person or experiencing or seeing things from a black perspective. It just was a perspective. We were the minority, and so I could let my mental hair down, and I ended up growing dreads, and it was that freedom of just being a person when I walked outside. Speaking to people that understood in that sense of kindness. It was a different. It was not reserved. It was not pent up hostility. It was just being a person.
I had a lot of my friends that came from the continent of Africa. A lot of my friends that came from Europe and that came from Asia, different portions of Asia. When they came here, especially my brothers I knew from West Africa, because most of them was, it's what ethnic group. I'm Iwe, I'm Efe, you Ibu, no, I'm a Yoruba, and everybody knew that was their ethnic connection. They said, but when they got here to America, they had to become black. And the same thing for the European students that I went to school with. They stated, they were, from Scandinavia, from Holland, from wherever, I'm from England, I'm from France. But when I came to America, I became white.
If anything, I think that we do that as a culture in the way of conditioning. It's like setting your roles, and I think that's a form of control. But I call it WPO, which is white people overload. So
WPO. Let mama write that shit
WPO,
down. White people overload.
And basically, that's whenever you feel like when you go in the store and you feel like, okay, are they watching? They got cameras on me, or they trying to see if I'm going to steal something, or if too many of us are together at one time. If I wear a hoodie, those kind of feelings.
You look like Trayvon's daddy. That's what they'll do it in a heartbeat, man.
And that's what I felt like whenever I came off the plane and I came back to the States. I saw it clear as day. But overseas, when they wouldn't know who I was, and when they found out that I was American, they didn't even see me as that. They saw me as a Westerner or an expat. Yeah. So they saw me with a different...
What is an expat?
Expat is an expatriate.
Okay.
So you're a former patriot of your country. So now you're out there experiencing their culture. But anybody that, when you notice that when we as Americans, we go somewhere, we're called expatriates or expats. But when someone comes here, they're still Chinese. They're still Kenyan. They're still Nigerian. They bring their culture with them. So even in our language, we separate ourselves from who we are. We become no longer Americans, but we become expats. We become something easier to digest instead of who we are.
Okay.
And I think it's so important in us to identify who we are as Americans. If we're Americans, what is American? What gives that?
I'd like to know.
Yeah. What gives that to me to be an African American? What does that mean as an African American? Does it mean soul, hip hop, jazz, reggae? Does it mean that I carry myself a certain way, wear my clothes a certain way? What does it mean in the sense of being African American? And that's an answer I'm still searching to define, because it's definitely not only slavery. There was a time before that.
Oh yeah.
So what is that? Where is my connection to my homeland? Because they're bringing their homeland with them. Yeah.
I had a good friend of mine who was a Vietnam veteran. He was a staff sergeant in Vietnam, and he told me about some of the things that he went through when he was in Nam and how he was treated when he came back, and called a baby killer. All of these kind of things that was going on back then. That was even probably before you was born. But that's what was happening. And then I listened to another story because I had a mentor of mine, Mr. Jesse Franklin Taylor. He was a WW2 vet, and he stated that he fought at the Battle of Normandy. He was driving one of those P boats where they drove into the bay and on the beach, and the people getting shot down when they open up this stuff. And he was over there because they was trying to fight Nazi aggression. Okay, he went over there and he said when they won that battle and they had the German prisoners over in Germany, the POWs were treated like POWs. He said, but when he got back to the United States, those POWs sat on the front of the bus and he had to go to the back of the bus.
It's still here.
So I'm saying, we as black people in America, or African people in America, we fought every battle that this nation ever had.
And we fought on both sides.
We fought
on, the Union. We fought for the Union, and we also fought for Confederates as well. We fought on both sides. But we were there, and we're just as much as a part of American culture in America. We're the ones that helped build this nation. But at the same time, we mentioned this earlier, I think it's all about the stories, and the stories that we tell ourselves, the stories that society tells us. And I think that that's a controlling point in our society. One thing I saw particularly with how we as expats feel when we travel, especially to Ghana. We feel that when we travel to Ghana, it can feel at times that we aren't black, that our blackness isn't even thought about when we're traveling to those different countries. And it's a feeling of empowerment. But here, I think we don't necessarily have that feeling of empowerment. We don't have that feeling of abundance. We have that feeling of servitude. Like somebody owe us something, or we owe them something.
Yeah.
And I think that that's in the stories that are told to us about our history.
Now, since you said that about the stories that are told to us about our history, I remember back in 1982 or 1983, a brother named Haile Garima, an Ethiopian journalist and movie producer, he created a movie called Sankofa. And the movie Sankofa, the way it started, it was showing a black sister with a blonde wig on the beach on the coast of in Ghana, and in front of a slave castle, and they're taking pictures, and she's rolling all on the ground, and here comes this African brother in looking like a priest or a shaman with a staff, and he hollers, Sankofa! Sankofa! Return to your roots.
Wow.
And she runs and scared and all the rest of this, and the show goes on, and then she goes into the dungeons where they had our ancestors chained up, and in the movie, all of a sudden, all the lights in the room went black, and then the lights came back on, torches on the wall, and people was chained up. Wow. And she was tripping. Then like she went back in time and like, I said, wow. Man, that was
that's trippy. That's deep right there.
Have you seen the movie?
I think I've seen that movie. No, the one I seen was, I think I seen Virgin, kind of like that, but it was Charleston Heston.
Oh no, this is Soul Brother from Ethiopia, Haile Garima, graduate from Howard University. No, he it's a whole nother flavor because it's Afrocentric all the way. You know, no, Charlton Heston, he lied about being Moses, so we know we don't want to hear that story again.
He was Ben-Hur, he was,
he's everything. Yeah. Well, it's because you said that we was talking about Ghana, and your travels to Ghana. I see recently a lot of people have been moving to Ghana. I even heard Stevie Wonder told him he was ready to get the hell up out of the United States and repatriate and move to Ghana. Could you tell me some of your experience?
Well, one of the experiences I have both positive and negative experiences from just being there and seeing the country for myself. I think one of the biggest things that I noticed was Ghana lacked many of Western conveniences, such as basic road infrastructure, sidewalks, and online shopping. Their malls, carried the same items that you can find a street peddler carrying, down the road. And the houses didn't have names or addresses, so it was difficult to get stuff mailed to you, packages mailed, or get, or tell somebody even where your address was if you were riding a taxi, I think that what I saw with the people, the culture gap was different, and there was a disconnect in the sense that African Americans can find it difficult to fit in with African culture. Some of the traditions that they have, they're culturally different from us. So we're trying to explain to them.
Please, let me give an example.
We're trying to explain to them about, say, 50 Cent, and they're trying to tell us about
50 Cent. You talking about Creflo Dollar's half brother?
Brother 50 Cent.
50 Cent.
Ja Rule.
Okay, you talking about that 50 cents or 50 cents? 50 cents in your pocket.
Yep, and they're talking to us about or I'm having conversations with Ghanaians that are talking about their culture, and I saw that there was so many things about their culture and their heroes that I didn't know about. So we're trying to connect, but it was difficult to find a connection until I was able to kind of open my mind and see things from their perspective, to see the beauty, to see the freshness, the wholesomeness, to see the loving and the giving. One negative aspect that I saw was that Ghanaians were kind of modest in the sense that they don't want to ask for something. They'll help you, and they'll expect that you'll give them a gift or pay them back. But they're assuming that you're going to give them a gift or give them something. And many times when I got help, it was like, okay, thank you, I appreciate it. And I didn't, You
didn't grease the palm.
I didn't grease the palm.
Okay.
But that's how, they get their income and communicate. they don't communicate that, I think, effectively as we would. We would say, hey, pay me. I did my service, pay me. Or we would say, don't worry about it. It's all good. But they would expect, as a form of you doing something or them doing something for you, give them a little gift.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I saw that with us. I came over there and I instantly became a middle-class citizen. And some of the friends that I had, I couldn't necessarily go out to certain restaurants with them because they couldn't afford it. I could go out and eat and they couldn't. So I saw the differences between us. I saw also the similarities between us as well, in the sense that they care. Strangers care. Like if I were to drop my wallet, they didn't take it. They actually brought it back to me and gave it back to me. They were concerned about me, and I saw general love and care. That's something that I would not necessarily see here. I think, those people have your best interests at heart. And it was beautiful to see that this person cared about me and didn't even know me. So there was some negatives, but there was also an abundance of positives too that I did not experience or would not have experienced in a Western country that really kind of woke me up to existence. I realized in Ghana, I felt like I was a human.
Yeah. Well, see, that's what it is. I had a friend of mine just like a couple of years ago went over to Egypt, and he was in the northern portion of Egypt, but then it went down through the second cataract down past the Aswan Dam, and it was a predominantly African population down there of people who have been there for centuries. And he stated that he stayed there with them for a week, and smoking the hookahs and eating dates and fresh fish and fresh vegetables, and guys watching the soccer game, the football game, the football with your feet. And he said it was such a pleasant time. He felt he was back down in Alabama with his grandmama's folks had a family reunion, And he said he knew he had to come back, and he told him, he said, no, man, don't leave, stay. He said, well, hey, I got a wife and family back. I got to go back home. And he went back. He said it was so pleasant and loving there. He said, but when he got back here to the U.S., he said, like when he got off the airport there in D.C., he went outside. He said it looked like the trees was mad.
Yeah. I can relate.
From being pleasant and feeling at peace somewhere else, and then you come back to your home, and you got to put on your armor.
You got to put on your armor. You have to put on your mask. My wife is Egyptian. She's from Cairo.
Okay.
I had a chance to have my in-laws here, and they stayed for about 6 months. And I tell you, it felt like I was back home with my in-laws coming. And they were coming thousands of miles from Egypt to be here. But it literally felt like I was back home, and her mother was my mother in the sense that it's a different culture, but it's also the same. It's like they are different, but they're the same. Her mother cooked the same southern tasting meals, that my grandmother cooked, using okra and, using sweet potato, using the same ingredients that we use here. And she was making Egyptian dishes, and they tasted the same. I know when I went over and stayed in Egypt, I stayed maybe about 12 days in Egypt to get married to my wife. And I saw beauty and I saw ugliness too. The people are I think that they're stuck in time. But they have so many beautiful qualities about them as well.
You're talking about the northern region? The northern region of
is,
Egypt?
Yep, stuck in time in the sense that a lot of their policies and a lot of their economy and government is based on rules that are no longer useful in today's society.
Well,
but at the same time, the love and care that they have when they have less is so reminiscent of my upbringing and my childhood when I saw. So I saw true love and compassion, and I saw so much respect and dignity in them, even though I felt like many times I was in a third world country.
Mm. Well, the thing is, even looking at the terminology we use, we know there's only one world.
Yes.
And looking at how you stated how looking at the underdevelopment of these nations, it was designed that way, as we know. Walter Rodney wrote a book on how the Europeans underdeveloped Africa. I think a year after he wrote the book, I know a year after he wrote the book, he was assassinated in his hometown of Guyana, a car bomb, because he empirically brought forth evidence to prove how through colonialism, through imperialism and colonialism, how the Europeans went into the continent of Africa and was there for the purpose of the underdevelopment, just basically to snatch the resources so that they can take the resources back to their countries and make products and send them around the world. Yeah.
I definitely agree. I think there's, it's designed to be that way. From the trash from the streets to the mentality. One thing I saw, and it kind of bothered me a lot, was the going over there and visiting these African nations. I saw colonialism kind of impregnated into a lot of their traditions.
Yeah.
Like I would see statues, and I would see statues with Africans with white wigs on them. Yeah. And I'm like, that's not how your hair color looks. Well, that's not who you are. But yet that's European look on a statue.
You looking at Kenya's parliament, or not Kenya's parliament, but Kenya's courts, and the courts, their attorneys and judges wear those powdered wigs that they wear over in England, because that shows you we still got your mind colonially, and
but it's in their traditions now.
Well, they got that tradition from somebody else, and they're colonializers. So in other words, that shows you how they still rule indirectly, because they still got your. If I got your mind, your behind gonna follow.
There you go. And so when I look at the power of stories, and that's one point that we got on earlier, but I would like to get back to, is the power of stories, even through oppression and fighting, and to think about those stories, the stories that we tell ourselves and each other. And I think that even more so than violence, I think the stories shape us. These stories shape us through our books, through our conversations, evolving these stories. I believe that they can minimize suffering in our world, but I think these stories also cause so much suffering in our world. These stories cause the wars that we have, the stories that we tell ourselves, cause us to fight each other, cause us to celebrate certain things that probably shouldn't be celebrated.
Yeah.
And I think that even though those stories are so powerful, I think there's also a frightening beauty in our brains. And it makes us love our words. It makes us love our stories. We don't necessarily need facts sometimes. We just need to hear, a story that is, as long as it sounds kind of correct, and as long as the story sounds convincing, we fall in love and believe it. And I think that a lot of our brothers and sisters in Africa and in the diaspora, I think that we have to change our stories.
Yeah, we have to be in control of our own narrative.
Yes.
In comparison to someone else's story. I know counter storytelling is something that I'm quite familiar with and what I love to do, because people need to know. And we live in a society right now where certain groups of people are trying their best to suppress information. That's why I'm thankful for this podcast, so we can talk and say what we think. It might offend somebody, it might not, but but we got to still tell it. You know, I remember when I first started here a couple of months ago, back in April. I got some nasty emails about some of the stuff I said, but I said, the producer Abraham said, Dr. Negus, they talking shit about you, man. They said, la. I said, well, hell, if you ain't pissing nobody off, you ain't doing shit.
There you go. You're exactly
you
right.
know, so you might as well, tell something,
What they're gonna be talking about you, and honestly, I'm so happy with that. Talk about me, because I'm living in your mind rent free now.
No, that'll be $59.95 plus tax for every second you think about me. That's it, man. Ben, can you give me a story about you in Ghana? Tell me something about you in Ghana, a story that you want to convey to the listening audience and the viewing audience.
Yes, I'll give you a story. Let's see, I have so many stories about that life over there. I remember one time I took a taxi, and the taxi was we were going up a hill, and the engine in the taxi wasn't all that well.
Okay, put.
You know, every few minutes or so, it would stop, and when every few minutes it would stop in the hill, there would be little kids around, so they would be asking for money. Every single time, the car stopped and you have to work on the car, the kids would be, up asking for money. And I give them a little bit. And then I realized if I keep giving my money, I'm not going to have enough to pay for my taxi ride and stuff. So I end up getting to the hotel and stuff. And I end up talking to the receptionist. And I told them about the story. And she was like, oh, that's how they get their money. That was a scam. And for me, I initially got angry, but then I laughed because that was so ingenuitive.
Yes.
To do that.
Yes, let's hustle. Hey man, come on.
So I was stuck in that car and I had to do something, and it got me right there, and I was like, wow, that was actually ingenuitive. So I respect that. And also I educated myself. I've had situations like that when I've traveled to Egypt, like going to the airport. If you don't have the correct change, you got to go to the exchange service. They can exchange dollars, so guess what? You have to pay a little more, and they can get you that currency. And so all of a sudden, I'm paying 4 times the amount when all I had to do was just bring correct money.
Correct. To the dollar.
To the dollar.
To the change.
And so little things like that when I travel, especially to Ghana, I had a chance to meet awesome people, awesome food.
Tell me something about the food now. You can't talk about food around a chubby dude and don't go say, wait a minute, hold on, man, what kind of food? The jollof rice?
I've heard that. I can't even pronounce half of the food that I ate.
You do goat meat?
Yes, I do goat meat, but I didn't do it before until I started traveling over there. Yeah. Goat meat, lamb, it didn't taste gamey. It was very good. I think my food experience was the most interesting when I went to Ethiopia. It seemed like when I've had a chance to travel to Dubai, met a lot of Ethiopians, and so when I went to Ethiopia, it was awesome in the sense that the women, for one thing, all looked like Beyonce. All of them.
Beautiful sisters.
Beautiful sisters look like Beyonce. They had a dance where they swing their necks
and shake their shoulders.
And when they swing that neck, I'm thinking their hair's going to fall off.
And they can rock that neck, too.
And they can rock that neck.
Yeah.
That dance is crazy. And they wear the dresses. I've been there for the New Year's, the traditional New Year's.
In September.
Yes. And had
September, what's called Meshkarim Astramit.
Yes.
That Meshkarim means September, that New Year day.
And it's beautiful. I had a chance to eat the bread injera, and then also the coffee, and the teas and stuff, and it was wonderful. I enjoyed it. That bread is wonderful.
Off the chain.
It's off the chain.
And man, I know when I was at Texas Southern, I had a mentor who was my geography professor, Dr. Michael Wada Akalu, and he was from Ethiopia. Got his PhD at UCLA, and he took me. I had opportunity. Because he knew I was so inquisitive about Ethiopia, he invited me to his son's wedding, and man, I saw them. They had it decked out, brother.
Yes,
they had a whole goat roasted, standing up, right, sitting right in the middle of the daggone table.
It's an entire day experience.
Oh man,
I've had a chance to go through a couple weddings, and it's definitely sometimes 2 or 3 day experience.
Yeah,
and the dresses that they wear, wow.
Yeah, man.
It's like that's beautiful.
The dude told me that for the first week before the wedding, he paid men to go to his wife's house and sing at the window, serenade her for a whole damn week. for man, come on, man. He serenaded her for a whole week, singing and throwing flowers to her at the window and all. So wait, who the hell is throwing flowers at my woman for a minute? Hold on, don't be, but that's what they did, and then the family would go, the wife's family, the groom would go to the wife's house and eat at their house, and they drink wine and eat. I did it with them. I drank that wine they called Tudge. It's made out of honey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've had that before. It's good.
That honey wine. Then we left there and went over to the other house, to the male's house, and ate over there and did it. And then they rest for a couple while. Then they go back to church and do the same thing all over again.
And the most beautiful thing that I saw over there was even more than the people. It was the conversations. I never thought that I would be talking geopolitical, conversations with someone that I used to think that was waiting for, 10 cents a day can save this person.
Oh, watching that bullshit they show you on TV.
And it really rewrote my whole idea of culture, of intelligence. Many of the folks that I spoke to went to the British universities and were very educated, but also came back home, educated their family, were teachers, were scientists, were educators themselves, and could have conversations on a geopolitical level. What I saw most of all was the reality of how outside nations saw them, and that really kind of bothered me in the sense that many nations don't pay attention. Whenever you see, say, an African nation speak at the, UN, you see nobody in the room. Yeah, they get up and leave. You see nobody in the room. But as soon as somebody come out, like, for Ukraine or come out for Israel, everybody's there because that's the top story. But I think that we as a people need to change the narrative and change the story, because there's so much going on in Africa that they're not showing, that they don't talk about in the news, they don't talk about in media, that is up and coming, if not ahead of its time. There's so many intelligent people there, and a lot of times the difference is maybe they don't have the financial resources to do the same things that we can do. But it's not for the lack of them not having the knowledge to be able to do it.
That's why Africa's reawakening. Africa's awakening.
I believe it.
And even to the point where young people are ready for some of these old folks to die out because of, like you was talking about, geopolitical systems, the political systems in Africa, how in the past, just like you said, they're still connected to the colonialists. And we see something recently happen in Burkina Faso, where there was a overthrow of the government, and a new leader, a junta went in, and they came in, and new leader, and they are non-aligned, just like what happened in that same country 20, 30 years ago when Thomas Sankara, who came in and became the president of formerly Upper Volta, but they changed the name to Burkina Faso. And some of the multinational corporations had something to do with his demise. You know, they got him out of here because he was not aligned with the West or the East. And they said, "Oh no, the hell with you. Because there's so much uranium in that area and plutonium in that area. Like Burkina Faso, we look at Niger, you know, because both of them are French colonies. And I see that there's a new leadership that's coming up, and some of the young people, a lot of the young people, if they become educated to the fact that they're being miseducated. I had a lot of friends from the continent of Africa tell me how backward some of the brothers and sisters are on the continent, and what they're doing is continuing to promote the colonial way instead of coming back and looking at your own way of doing things. And like I said, there'll be a time there'll be a transformation.
I think there's a change. But I also think that a lot of other nations do not want Africa to get too big. And the reason why, I mean, look at China. China's coming over there right now, and they're coming through Africa. They're buying up stuff. They're
building roads.
They're building roads. They're building buildings. But also you have to look at it in an economic sense. They're doing the same thing that we do, which is come in, provide money, but it's a loan. So now you have to pay off that loan. And if you don't pay off that loan, guess what? We own that now.
Well,
and so they're coming in and buying up land, not necessarily by buying it themselves, but by loaning, Africans the resources, and then they can't pay for the resources.
Check this out. I saw something on an article right before I got up in here, man. Mark Cuban, former
Utah Jazz. I think.
No, Dallas Mavericks.
Dallas Mavericks.
And he's on Shark Tank
Yep.
now. He's got $1 billion investment in the Congo right now. Cause they carbon.
Mm-hmm.
That carbon. Carbon. We're looking at carbon. We're looking at coltan. We're looking at all of those minerals, the tanzanium, all of those minerals that are coming out of the ground that they know that they can do something with. They're investing. But it would make sense for us brothers and sisters over here on the Western world, try to create a relationship with your own brothers and sisters back there and do the work ourselves.
Yeah, but
it can be done.
We as African Americans, as a society, we do not communicate well with each other. We don't help each other to do things.
Mm-hmm.
And even when we go places, we get mad at someone. Maybe someone slighted us.
Mm-hmm.
Get mad at them. Well, I'll do it myself.
Mm-hmm.
We get our egos hurt, and then all of a sudden we're doing things ourselves. We'll do it ourselves. We'll make it ourselves. I can do bad all by myself.
Yeah.
Those things that we keep coming back to, instead of saying, okay, how can I stop this mental cycle, this mental circle, this snake that continues to eat itself? How can I stop doing that and help my people and branch out to my other people to help, to change? We have so much knowledge here, especially as being African Americans in America. We have so many opportunities, but it's hard to say, okay, how can I help them? Because I got to feed my family. I got to take care of mine. I think that we help each other by changing our story. We get to the point that we start to look at our history. And when I see history, I see his story. His story. So I need to tell my story, and I need to find my story.
Mm-hmm.
We need to find out who we are. And when we find out who we are, I think that will help us to be able to communicate and help our African brothers and sisters and help ourselves. And we're no longer be dependent on a lot of things that, I call it Western society, Western culture.
Yeah.
A lot of people get on the Malcolm X and Martin Luther King debate, and I see knowledge in both ideas.
Mm-hmm.
I see that sometimes as men, we have to be nurturing and caring. We have to see that feminine side in us to be nurturing and caring, but also we have to be that masculine side and say, you know what, I'm going to go after mine. But I no longer think it's just mine. I think that I have a responsibility to create something for all of us.
You know what? I look at the Frankfurt School of Thought and how they represent things to make you say, I got to be either this one or that one. I like this one, I got to hate the other one. I look at the three at the turn of the 20th century with W.E.B. Du Bois, Booker T. Washington, and Marcus Garvey. And all three of them had an idea. And all three of them's idea was great. But the society makes you have to accept one and hate the others. You know, instead of loving all that what your people are doing anyhow, you know, we should just, you know, if I know my whole family was Martin Luther King. They didn't tell us nothing about no Malcolm. You know, but when I got hold of Malcolm, I said, "Oh shit,
yes,
that's what I like."
When I got hold of
that
Malcolm,
sounds good.
When I got my son is named Malcolm.
Okay, now all right.
I had to name my son after him. When I got a hold of Malcolm, what is it? What's that speech he did? Bullets over
the Ballad of the Bullets. Ballad of the Bullets.
Ballad of the Bullets. Wow. And just thinking, I realized, wait a minute. What am I missing?
Yeah.
What was I not told about?
There's more than one side of the story, ain't it?
But
this is wild.
Yeah.
But, you know, brother Gerald, we've been at this thing for a minute. I want you to tell these folks some of the things that before we sign off, because we've been at it here for a little bit, chopping it up. I want you to let them know something about your business as well. If you tell folks about who you are, what you do, and how they can contact you.
Yep. Well, thank you. My business is
your business.
Yes,
my business.
My business.
My business.
Yes.
Okay, my business, not your business. Go ahead.
Well, I have a couple of businesses that I'm doing, but one particularly I will say I mentioned today is Androgyny Studios. Androgyny Studios, we're a drone photography studio, innovation and visual excellence in commercial real estate. Basically what we do is we do photography, videography, we do Matterport 3D tours of commercial properties in the Des Moines area and in Iowa. We use drones, we use typical photography cameras and stuff to get that shot.
Mm-hmm.
I can be reached at my email is going to be androgynystudios@gmail.com, and then also you can check out my website at www.androgynystudios@wordpress.com. I'm sorry, androgynystudios2021.wordpress.com.
Spell it for us so that they ought to spell androgyny.
Androgyny. Okay. All right.
Come on now.
Androgyny Studios is going to be ANDROGYNESTUDIOS 2010.wordpress.com.
Now, y'all get that, mark that down, and stay in touch, because y'all know I know some of y'all do need his services. So reach out to Brother Brown.
Yep. And I also do illustration as well. I'm an illustrator, artist by trade, and I can do portraits. I can also do basically any type of illustration, digital work as well. And check out my website, and you can see my portfolio as well.
That sounds great, man. I appreciate you, brother. It's good to see you. And everybody out here in social media world, this is Dr. Negus Imhotep with my guest, Gerald C. Brown Jr. from Androgyny Studios. Check them out. We hope that everybody have a happy whatever day that you celebrate, Hanukkah, Christmas, I'm a Kwanzaa man, so we gonna Kwanzaa our way into the new year. Hey, everybody, y'all be cool out there. Have a great day. Bye now.